Alright guys, welcome back. So in our last class we spoke about inspiration and how we can find inspiration online. We looked at how we can find inspiration both physically and online. So we looked at multiple ways, physically we say you can take a walk, you can talk with your peers. We looked at various ways, and then we came to the main part, which is actually how to find inspiration online. We listed a couple sites: Behance, Awards, Good UI, Pinterest. They go on and on and on and on. And we also showed that we could sort our search. So you want to sort a search on just websites, more like say a website where you're trying to just kind of like sell a product. So I'm just using one of these. So okay. So yeah, so that will bring us even before then we've played around with tools when we were doing introduction to Figma. I know it is not overly detailed, but at least it can get us a hands-on. So today I would love us to just get our hands dirty with Figma. Let's do our first official design, possibly a landing page. Say you want to sell a product. This is what I have here. This is what I did before now that I would love us to try and replicate. This is say a smartwatch brand. I just took these pictures out the internet and I just used it to play around. And if you see, you look at the logo I used here, see that it's simply from the same kind of tools we were playing around with. And you see how consistent the colors are with colors you can find on these pictures. So everything is just in sync and is beautiful. So let's get right into it. Let's go to figma.com. We could come here and just say new design file. Yeah, that's better. New design file. Now that reminds me, I think before before we actually get into designing, there is something we really have to take note of, which is grids. So I have a little note here. When we're talking about design principle, there is about what users expect on any web application that they are going through. And if you recall, in the class we were citing instance, we are using ecom. For instance, we cited instance of say Jumia, jumia.com.ng. We can also have Conga here, conga.com. We can also have eBay, ebay.com. And now, one of the things we were pointing out about them is that they might have exclusively and quite different UIs, but there is always a peculiar thing about them in the way they arrange their interfaces. You always see a search, then you may see some products. I'm very sorry guys, my internet seems a little slow. You see that search, you see some they show you some products, and then the next thing you see now are more like categories. Yeah, that's the peculiar thing you see around. This is conga. This is what we're talking about. You see some products and then you begin seeing categories: computing, electronics, power. So that's that. Same thing with Jumia, same thing with Amazon. Just whichever, any product is same thing. Say even if you go to the social media space possibly, or even the banking space, there is always those similarities. And one way we describe that is what we call Jacob's principle. Jacob's principle. You see, even here on eBay position their categories above here, try to make their own UI pretty easier and shorter, simpler, but it's still the same thing. Yeah, it's still the same thing. Now, like the definition we have here, we said Jacob's principle of design states that since users spend more time on other web applications, it would be a better experience to design your websites and applications to look and work like those general, okay, let's just say the general, like the general ones, users already know and are used to. Yeah. So, well, let's see what Google has for us. It says Jacob's law, also known as Jacob's law of the internet user experience, was put forth in 2000 by usability expert Jacob Nielsen. Yeah, that's the name of the guy. He said he described um he said the tendency for users to develop an expectation of design conventions based on their cumulative experience from other websites. That's exactly what we're trying to say. You have to know that before a user is actually coming to interact with your product or making use of your product, he or she already has tried out a product before yours. That product or that brand may even be better than yours. So there is already something that user is expecting. There's an experience that user is looking forward to continuing having or enjoying, you know. So it's just like this e-com now. You see, like if say a user, it's only eBay, Amazon, Alibaba, whichever that he's very conversant with, that he has been using over a while, and say we are Konga or we are Jumia and we are just trying to penetrate the market. So there's an experience this user has, a better experience this user has. There's something he or she is expecting. So when we're trying to work on a design, when we're trying to work on our own design, we don't just out of the blues try to come up with, even though we may try to be super creative, we don't just suddenly out of the blues try to do something extra, because we may actually ruin that user's experience. Look at Amazon here. You understand? So you always see these similarities amongst e-coms. Now, what happened? Why is this very important? Like we stated earlier, let's say that user is only used to Amazon. So if that user begins using eBay, he knows he can find his way around. He doesn't need to be tutored or guided. If he finds himself around Konga, if he finds himself around Jumia, so you don't need to go you don't need to go taking a course just to learn how to use that particular product. Yeah, so that's that. And what other thing do we have? Okay, like I said, whenever you want to work on a project or product, you search on the internet for similar things, most times to draw inspiration, not to copy. Just familiarize yourself with how that product works, because that is already what the user is looking forward to enjoying and having. Now, okay, styles and components, we'll be looking at all of that later. The next thing I would love us to look at is grids. Grids, yeah. Grids are very, very important. Like if you see this design I did, what enabled me? What do you think made me able to get all of these things perfectly in the right angles and stuff? If I press my Shift G, you're going to see the layout grid I used. This was exactly what I used for my measurements, making sure everything was in place and in sync. So grids are very, very important. Let's say to do that now, the first thing we have to do, we're going to insert a frame, um not for phone, let's use for desktop. Okay, this is it. Now, in adding a grid is very easy. We come to this our right panel, click on the grid, and you can see there's already a grid that is, oh so sorry, there's already a grid that is being added to, there's already just by clicking on it we find ourselves a grid. So I wanted to zoom in. So you see all these minute lines, you see how minute they are. You could really literally use them. They could be very, very, they come in very handy for your designs. Now why it is that minute is because here it is on 10 pixel. So what's going on? We can say we want to put it at 64 pixel. Now you see it's even more, it's bolder and bigger now. Now why is grid very important? We use it to maintain some sort of consistencies, like you saw here, consistency in our design when it comes to spacing or arrangement of objects in whichever design we are giving. Let's give an instance, say I want to use an ellipse. Now I could literally set my ellipse. I could say I'm doing an ellipse that will occupy 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 rows, and then I want to give a spacing of 2 in between, 2 columns. I'm giving a spacing of 2 columns in between. You understand? So I have, now if I just keep this up, you see my design is going to maintain consistency. So even though I take off these grids, hide the grids, you just see this and you see how well arranged they are. So that's how very important grids are. So there are, if you come back to, let's let's delete this. If you come back to our frame, you see the grid was on grid. Now the grid will be using most often is the one for the columns. Of course you can set for the rows. If you click your plus icon, you can set for the rows too if you wish or if you desire, but we're going to be using the columns for now. And I think we can just follow me. Some of these things would be better explained. Okay, so sorry for that noise. So some of these things will be better explained later. So like you saw in my previous, Like you saw in this design here, I was using the column grid, and if you count the if you count the number of columns I have here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 you see it's 12. Yeah, so we're just going to use that here, 12. We're going to, why do we use 12? Okay, let me quickly touch that a little bit. At least let's lay the foundation. Like we've just spoken about Jacob's principle. So one thing I also okay, let's just add that. Okay, I even listed steps for you to create the. So let's just say one of the guidelines that products uses to do their designs according to the. Alright, this will take me too long, no need for this. Let's just talk about it. So now, using this Jacob's principle, like we stated, there's already a way users are familiar with. There is a way they are expecting our design should look like. There's an experience they are anticipating to derive from our product. Yeah. So there is a tool there's a tool that Google actually developed. It's called material design. So I'm just trying to lay the foundation of how exactly you see me specifying for the type of column I intend using. If you go and search for let's search material design. Just search material design on Google. Material design. We can also still search what is material design. Google took out time to um we've closed lots of these websites. So one thing you would notice here now, say we are on a desktop. Let's say we are accessing any web application on the desktop. Let me let me let me restore some of the pages we closed down. Recently closed out. Ouch, that would be so much. Okay, you can come here and close, close, close. Just stay with me. We're getting somewhere. Okay. So how am I going to this? Hunger. Alright, let's continue what we're trying to say. If you notice, this is not even what I'm looking for. This is way too confined. What we're trying to say is when we are browsing any web application on our desktop, you would notice a particular spacing, that the margin is called margin. The margin that is left, it is always very consistent. This text follows like immediately afterwards. Like there's this margin that is always on both sides of, there's always this margin on both sides. Any web application you go to, there's always a margin that is set. Let's look at Conga. You're seeing that margin. You're seeing that margin. It is always there. Now, this is for the desktop view. Now, say we try to look at, let's say, we want to have a mobile view. We can do that from our browser. We click on inspect page. I'm not using Chrome. If it were to be Chrome, Chrome would by default list it on the right side. So let's just continue with Firefox. Now, when we click on this icon to see how responsive the web application is, now you notice something. There is always a difference, especially in the margin, between a desktop view and a mobile view. In the mobile view, you notice that the margin is slightly smaller. So in the desktop you have a bigger margin, but as the screen size or the display size keeps reducing, the margin also keeps reducing, and that is very understandable. That is very important. Why is that? It's because you cannot imagine having a default margin predefined on, say, your project. Say we set okay, see what we're talking about here. You see, as we come to a mobile view, it gets smaller. If you want to switch to some, let's say, a smaller view, which is smaller here. I wish we had some sort of, okay, even I think Samsung S8 is smaller. Okay, S8 is not here. uh okay, let's look at the 12 mini. Mini is quite small. You realize that even the margin also reduces. Okay, I think eBay is not being well responsive. Let's try that for Conga. Let's put that on mini. You see, the margin keeps reducing. Say we want to put it on a tablet now. Okay, see, the screen size is increased and so would the margin. So these are very important. Why do we say it's important? Because you cannot set a predefined, let's say, as it's on the desktop view here now. Yeah, this is on the desktop view. You cannot set your margin to begin from, say, your margin begins here. Let's say this is 100 pixel, or let's just say it's 100 pixel. Now you want to use that 100 pixel on your mobile view. You could see that on your mobile view, that 100 pixel could be somewhere here and here. Now imagine having all the contents of this web application just between here and here. You see, it will not be looking nice. So that's why it's very important we do that. So why we are mentioning this is because of the material design. Okay, material design is a design language developed by Google in 2014. Expanding on the cards that depicted, the material design uses more grid-based layouts, responsive animations, and transitions. Right? So if you actually go into material design, if you watch well, you realize that they literally have multiple versions. This is M2, this is material design version 2, version 3. They should also have a version 1. I think their version 1 will be some sort of M1, version 3, version 2, version 2. Okay, here, this is version 1. Well, so sometimes what you're looking for, you might not find it in the version 1. You can go to the version 2, you may find it. Sometimes you find it in your version 3. But let's just click on the first page that we see, which is the version 3. Let's see what it has to say about grid design. What I'm trying to say is, here in this material design that is designed by Google, like, it is very, you cannot just say everything about it. They literally detailed everything, from how to use colors, how to use shadows, the principles and guidelines for you to implement. Now that we're talking about grids, let's just focus on grids. Say, start applying color type adaptive design patterns. Okay, let's select that because it's an adaptive patterns and best practices for handling multiple screen sizes. Okay, let's select this. Now it even gives you lots of content which we can read and acquaint ourselves. So I wouldn't like this video to be way too long. Okay, it said column 1 means column, 2 means fold, 3 means margin. This is 1. This is column. 2 is fold. 3, where's the 3? The margin, which is also what you find here. So you just keep. Now, okay, we actually wanted to look at design. Now you see it's redirecting us to the version 2, material design version 2. So when it loads, you see that it kind of like details that for screen types of this is the type of column grids you can specify. This is the type of you get. Now, okay, this is it. Okay, responsive column grid. So if you take your time, you read through, come here, read through, acquaint yourself with more knowledge. You see what it says here. For this is an extra small phone. You use 16 dp. What was I trying to use here? Okay, I was trying to use a 12 column. Here it used a 8 column. Look at, okay, now this is the screen size. Let's check for the screen size of this. 1728 1117 1728 1117. So you see that we are actually in sync. We are actually working on um we are working on some sort of, yeah, it's a laptop display. This is the width 1728. So the height 1117. You realize that it falls in sorry, we are looking at the width, not the height. Yeah, 1728, that is the height of this display. You realize that it falls under the large desktop, because if you come through the when we clicked on our frame, you realize that it's actually a 16-inch screen. So you see that it says, it's even telling us here the number of columns we can use is 12, and that's exactly what we are trying to use. So as we go on, we're going to discover more and more and more. So I wouldn't like to waste. I think I've spent too long already on trying to lay this foundation. So now for the margin, I'm going to use 100. Don't forget that this is a big display. And for my gutter, let's say I think I'll leave it at 20. And this, we're actually going to leave this as stretch. Stretch is more like the most responsive of everything here. Yeah, and that's that. Let's just take off these shapes. Now we have our grid set. This is the margin at the left and right side. In between is what we call the gutter, and these are our columns, which are 12. Now you can always toggle this on and off just by pressing Shift G, Shift 50, restore it. You can also set the color you prefer, whichever color you like. Feel free to find that. Alright, so you can select the color you want. Let's name our file landing page. So now the first thing I did was I used I made a square and a polygon. Made a square and a polygon. Shortcut to actually making something kind of like perfect. Let's use 120, put the height and the width. That's that. I gave it a color. So you can decide to use a different color. It's all still good. So possibly I may be working with a color of, say, instead of the green, I may be working with blue. You know. And then next thing I did was the polygon. The polygon. The next thing I did was to rotate. Okay, let's give this a little bit of progress. You can also give it a cut. So I rotated the shapes. Let's just rotate it up 25 degrees. Okay. Let's give it a minus 25 degrees. Let's give it a 25 degrees. So I think, okay, it's not a thing of dots. It's obviously it's obviously too it's obviously too big. So let's take 15, or in fact 10. Which want us to have a very perfect minus 10. Okay, minus 15. And we just bring them possibly close to each other. 120, 120. Let me see if I do this 120, 120. It's gonna look like nah. Another thing we can do is I use my arrow. Let's kind of do the arrow. I increase it, let's give it 5. Set the color. Another technique we can use, let us import the picture we intend using for this design. Control Shift key, the shortcut to get a picture. Sorry. Okay, so this is one. Let's not forget this, our scale tool helps us even our scale of any shape. Alright, I think I tried to import 2 pictures. I don't know why the second one wouldn't be. Wanted to use this picture. Show me adding image. I think that particular image has some sort of issue. So whatever I'm doing here, yeah, you can just you can play around with yours, yeah. You can play around with shapes, try to come up with any logo. Let me see. What is going on? I think I'm going to work with this picture only. Let's be working with just this picture for now. Next thing I did, you can duplicate. Can zoom in to get a clearer view of exactly what we're doing. We can set the rotation to say 45. Let's put it at 50. No, 40. So better. 40. 40. So we can still do a duplicate. Let's just select these arrows and group them. Ctrl G. So we can now yeah, so you can use that. I'm just trying to do something different from what I had done earlier. I mustn't redo exactly what I did. So that's that. Now this is where our use of, we can actually come to our frame, maybe leave our frame. Let's give it a little feel, maybe a little ash like feel. Yeah, so we have a better view of the background. Now we can come here and just group this logo we designed. Now we can use our grid to, like here you see what we did here. We started the logo on the first column, so we can do that here too. We use the column now to identify exactly where I really love using the scale tool to uniformly, let me try and get another picture to add with that. I really have no idea what's wrong with my pictures. Let's try this. Hopefully it works. Oh my gosh, this is serious. So nonetheless, let's go ahead. The next thing we'll be needing is a text. You can just go to, you mustn't kill yourself trying to come up with a text. You can just go to, say, like I went on ChatGPT and I just typed I typed I typed some keywords on on what I could use for the smartwatch, and it gave me a couple stuff. Enhance your lifestyle with cutting edge technology. Let me try and copy something different. Okay. So we can. Oh my gosh. What has this picture done to my laptop, man? I think I would love to close this. So we type a text. Like we said earlier, you can use your grid to set the number of columns you love your text to occupy. I want this text to occupy 4 columns, or you could set it to 5, whichever you want. But I want it to occupy 4 columns. So I'm just going to paste the text here. I'm going to highlight it all, and I'm going to increase the font size. Let's try 30. Okay, let's use another font. Okay, let's use some sort of bold. Let's use a different font style. Mm, So you can literally go to fonts.google.com. You can get yourself a better font which you would prefer. It would help speed up your work, make everything go faster. Okay. Let me see if I can give it. Oh, it has just bold. Let me see the font I used for this here. So many groups. So many groups. Okay. Okay, I used Merryweather here. So you could still reuse Merryweather. You even ever let me just go for Sans. Okay. There's the font size to 40. Stay connected and in control. Let me copy a couple more text. Let me copy a couple more text. Never miss a beat. You know what? Let's just copy text from here. You can make the font size here a little bit smaller. Let's give it 25. Okay, way too small. Let's give it 30. Alright, this is better. We set our picture to take 5 columns. Let's try to get that picture again. Let's use our scale tool. And give this Saki a fitness journey. Change some text. So let's just delete some. Take off some text. Let's end that with a period. So, and then we come to our button. We could add a button here, and even this logo here, I don't think I like it. I don't think I love this logo. I don't think I like the arrows there. Let me see if I can increase this stroke to say 7. Then I think this diamond is pretty cooler. Okay, see that. Yeah, see, yeah, this is better. Then for our button, all right. We could use a text box, possibly do a button, call it read more, or learn more, or read more. Okay. We could also use a frame. Okay, yeah, I feel a frame will be better off for us. Use a frame to do that. I think a frame will be better off for us. So let's just create a frame. Possibly we set our frame to occupy just three rows. Then we put a text in it. And we call it read more. Don't forget the frame should, we can give it a color of, let's give it a color, a field. No, not the frame, not the text, the frame. Okay. Let's give this frame yeah, we can give it a little radius of say 10. So we're going to create a text. Possibly just set it in between the column in between the 3 columns that our button is occupying. Then we're just going to, okay, so we put a text to just occupy in between. Then we're just going to call it read more. And then we can set this, working on responsiveness of our site, we can give it auto No, we don't need auto height. Actually, we need auto width. Let's see if we can give the text some form of, it can be bolded. It can be bolded. Let's try and position this now in between. Right, this is perfectly at the center. Now we can come here, set our constraints to center. We can rename our frame to button. So trying to see how possible we can make our page, our web application responsive. You see, by doing that, you notice that however, say whatever variation in the screen size of the desktop appears, the button is able to auto adjust itself. Let's take it back. The next thing we need is our nav bar. So we can use to just press our T. So home, let me delete this, let me try that again. So we can just use this to measure. Let's try to move in between each column. That should do. Home, about us, out. Okay. So what can we call this? Say products. Oh, wow. Products. Just can we give this? Maybe we can give that reviews. So we can set this to start from the top to the last row. And for this frame, I think I should give it a feel of height. Alright, with this, I think we can say we've been able to successfully do our landing page, although I still prefer the first one here. This first one here looks better to me, possibly because of the choice of the font style that I used, and then a couple other stuffs, and then the logo. But nonetheless, this is basically so you just try out your own, try your best to make sure whatever you're doing is way, way, way better. And don't forget to hit the share and share with your friends. So thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next lesson.